the woman who sold her smile the morning Amina was born. The weather did something the elders had never seen before. The air shimmered as if the sun itself had stepped closer to earth. The clouds parted into a perfect ring, shaping what looked like a bright path opening above the humble clay house of her parents, Musa and Baisai. Even the sparrows perched silently on the trees, their heads tilted as though they too waited for her first cry. But when Amina finally opened her tiny eyes, she did not cry. She smiled. It was not the ordinary twitch of a newborn's lips. It was a warm and gentle curve that brightened the room, casting away the shadows that clung to the corners. The midwife gasped and dropped her cloth. Musa stumbled backward, his hand over his chest. Baisai, still exhausted, stared in disbelief as the room grew brighter. Her smile filled the place with a soft glow, like morning sunlight through clean water. The midwife crossed herself with trembling hands and whispered that a blessing had just entered the world. Word traveled faster than Harmattan winds. Neighbors and strangers poured into the small house. Everyone wanted to see the baby who smiled from birth. Some believed she was chosen by the gods, others feared she had come from the spirit world. Despite the excitement, Musa was protective. He barred the door when too many people pushed their way inside. His voice was loud, but his heart was shaking. He knew blessings drew attention, and attention could become danger. Yet when he looked at his daughter, he believed she was a gift that must be shared with the village. Adun, their village, stood between the tall whispering forests of the west and endless golden farmlands stretching to the east. It was a peaceful place where the people woke to the sound of goats and returned from their farms with laughter. The villagers always gathered under the great baobab tree in the evenings. Stories, laughter, anger, and forgiveness all found a place beneath its giant branches. But since Amina's birth, joy came more easily. The sick started recovering more quickly. Traders made better profits at the market. Even the goats gave new milk. Elders nodded knowingly. They said the land was dancing again. As Amina grew, her smile only grew brighter. She smiled when she greeted elders, when she helped her mother at the school, when she played with the other children. Those who were sad would come sit near her, hoping to catch a glimpse of her radiant glow. Somehow, standing near her made people feel lighter. Children played that even the sun shone more golden on days she was happy. Her mother, Baisai, often reminded her to be humble. Beauty can bring joy, and beauty can cause jealousy. Her father, Musa, reminded her to be wise. A gift that is shared wisely becomes a blessing. A gift shared carelessly becomes a burden. Those words shaped Amina, but she was too young to fully understand. As she stepped into her teen years, her beauty became more noticeable. Her skin glowed like polished bronze, her hair curled like black waves, and her eyes held a kindness that seemed to see the good in everyone. But still, nothing compared to her smile. When she smiled, the world appeared kinder. Hearts softened, anger melted. She won trust without trying. Yet beneath all the admiration, something else was growing. Whispers, envy, questions about why one girl should hold so much light while others lived in ordinary shadows. One afternoon at the stream, while washing calabashes with her best friend Halima, Amina noticed a group of girls watching her closely. Their faces were tight with hidden emotion. Halima noticed too. She nudged Amina and whispered, "Do you see how they stare?" Amina smiled softly. "They must be curious about something." Halima shook her head. "They are jealous. They hide it poorly." Amina laughed quietly. Why would anyone envy me? But even her laughter sounded like polished bells, and Halima only sighed. The world does not always love what it should admire. Sometimes, it fears it. At home that evening, Musa sat outside grinding corn when Amina returned. He watched her walk with graceful steps and knew something was changing. "Amina," he said gently, "come sit with me." She sat and placed her hands on her knees. Her father breathed deeply before speaking. "I see the way the village looks at you now. Many are grateful, many admire you, but some will hunger for what you have, even if they do not understand it." Amina lowered her eyes. "I cannot hide who I am. I do not want you to hide," he said, "but I want you to understand that your smile is not only light, it is power, and power always has a price." She did not fully understand those words, not then, but she saw concern in her father's eyes and tucked the warning into her heart. Months passed, then seasons. A festival came to celebrate the harvest. The village square filled with drums, dancers, and traders from far and near. Decorations covered the baobab tree, and colorful cloths fluttered in the breeze. Amina dressed in a simple wrapper and beads, yet even in simplicity, she shone brightest. As she joined the dance, laughter echoing from her lips, every eye followed her movements. Even the elders admired her grace. But jealousy walked that celebration like a shadow. Fatima, daughter of a wealthy man, watched Amina with clenched fists. She had always been considered the beauty of Aden until the day Amina smiled in public. In Fatima's home, mirrors were now her enemies. She whispered bitterly to her friends, "Do you not see how they adore her? She acts innocent while stealing all our attention." Her friends nodded though they pretended not to care. The fire of envy spread quietly, feeding on insecurity and pride. As the festival reached its peak, a sudden hush fell over the crowd. A tall stranger in dark red robes stepped forward from behind a trading stall. His skin was smooth like polished wood, his hair hidden under a turban. His eyes gleamed like a night animal stalking prey beneath the moonlight. No one recognized him. The drummer paused. Children froze mid-dance. Even the birds on the tree fell silent. The stranger looked directly at Amina. "So this is the girl with the smile that brings fortune." His voice was like silk sliding over sharp metal. The elders looked at each other uneasily. Musa stepped closer to his daughter instinctively. "Who are you?" he asked. The stranger only smirked and turned slightly, showing a heavy sack at his side. When he lifted it briefly, the sound of coins clinking inside whispered to the ears of those nearby. A sound that made greed stir silently in hearts. "I am a merchant, one who deals in rare and valuable treasures." His gaze returned to Amina. "And I believe this young woman carries the most valuable treasure of all." Murmurs filled the air like restless insects. Musa's heart pounded. He grabbed Amina's hand. "We are not interested in whatever you are selling." The stranger bowed with false respect. "Oh, I am not selling, good sir. I am buying." He pointed at Amina. "I want to purchase her smile." Gasps rippled through the festival. The drums dropped from the drummer's hands. Fatima's eyes widened with sudden intrigue. Some villagers looked hopeful, thinking perhaps this deal could bring wealth to their village. Others looked afraid. Amina stood very still. She felt her heartbeat pounding in her chest as she stared into the stranger's dark, bottomless eyes. And for the first time since she was born, her smile began to fade. The silence that settled over the festival ground felt heavy, like the stillness before a storm. Amina's throat tightened. She had never imagined such a request, nor such a man. The stranger's eyes glinted with hunger, and though his lips curved like a smile, there was no joy in it. The merchant chuckled softly. "That is where you are wrong. Everything in this world has a price. Some things only require someone brave enough to name it." He pulled open his sack and poured a portion of its contents onto the nearest stool. Cowries, gold coins, and jewels spilled out like a river of wealth. Children gasped. Mothers stared. Even the village chief leaned forward unconsciously. "With this treasure, Musa, you could rebuild your home, buy farmlands, and secure your daughter's future. All you must do is allow her to give me what I desire." Amina took a breath, trying to gather her courage. "Why would you want my smile?" The merchant looked directly into her eyes, his gaze sharp as a spear. "Because your smile holds power, joy, hope, blessing. I know magic when I see it. And I deal in magic that humans take for granted." He stepped closer, lowering his voice as though sharing a secret. "Imagine a smile that can turn misfortune into fortune, sorrow into laughter, illness into health. Do you truly believe such a gift should belong to a simple village girl?" His words pressed against her heart. People rarely spoke to her like she was ordinary. They always worshipped, praised, or demanded something from her. But this man's voice questioned her right to exist as she was. Her father moved between them, anger growing in his glare. "Leave this place. You will not speak such poison here." The merchant bowed again, but his smirk never left. "I will not force my offer. I am a patient man. I will stay in your village for 3 days. If you change your mind, come to me. If not, I will leave." He packed his treasures back into the sack, though even that act seemed theatrical, meant to leave the villagers hungry with desire. Before turning away, he faced Amina once more. "Think carefully. Some gifts become burdens when others crave them too much." Then he disappeared into the crowd like a shadow swallowed by dusk. Amina felt the world tilt. Her legs trembled slightly. Her father squeezed her hand, but she barely felt it. The villagers stared in every direction. Their expressions were mixed. Some pity, some fear, some something darker. Greed. Her mother rushed to her side. Amina, dismiss that foolishness from your mind. Your smile is not meant for strangers' hands. Amina nodded, but the words did not settle fully. The festival continued, but the joy that once danced through the air had dimmed. Drums beat again, yet the rhythm felt forced. Those who greeted Amina did so with new eyes, measuring her worth differently now. Later, when the moon hung full and heavy over the village, Amina sat alone outside her home, the night breeze brushing her cheeks. Her smile had always been a gift she gave without asking anything in return. But now she wondered what life might be like if she were not expected to shine every day. Would people still love her? Would she still matter? Would she finally have time to simply be Amina? Fatima and her friends approached quietly. Their steps were not friendly. Fatima crossed her arms and eyed Amina with sharp curiosity. If someone wants to buy your smile, that means it is not truly yours anymore. It belongs to all of us. Amina frowned. My smile belongs to me. Fatima scoffed. Does it? You have spent years making the rest of us look worthless. You should sell it and share that money with the village. Amina stood, her voice trembling. I have never tried to make anyone feel less. Fatima stepped closer, face twisted by resentment. Your smile steals attention that should be shared. Without it, we would shine too. Her friends nodded coldly. They had always followed her lead, even down the wrong path. Amina turned away, her heart tightening. She walked back inside, leaving their bitterness in the dark where it belonged. But their words stuck to her thoughts like thorns. That night, sleep refused to visit her. She stared at the ceiling, replaying the merchant's voice. Everything in this world has a price. The next morning, before the sun touched the rooftops, Amina went to fetch water at the stream. It was her private time, when she could be away from the hungry eyes of others. But when she reached the riverside, she paused. The merchant was already there, sitting calmly on a stone, hands clasped. Good morning, shining one. Her heart jumped. She almost turned to walk away, but something held her still. Why do you call me that? Because light attracts darkness, and darkness always watches closely. She swallowed. You say my smile has power. If I sold it, what would happen to me? He leaned forward, eyes unblinking. You would still live, still speak, still laugh. But laughter without a smile is empty. You would finally be unseen. No more pressure. No more expectations. You would be a person like any other. Amina felt her chest tighten. There was something terrifying about his words, but something tempting as well. And the village, she whispered. He shrugged. The world survived long before you smiled. It will survive after. A breeze rustled the leaves above them. The river flowed with quiet murmurs. Amina closed her eyes. She imagined a life where she could wake without everyone waiting for her light to save them. She imagined a life where she could choose who she wanted to be. When she opened her eyes, the merchant smiled. Do you wish to hear the price? She nodded slowly. He opened his sack again, revealing dazzling jewels that sparkled like captured stars. All this will be yours. Enough wealth to free your parents from labor. Enough to travel the world. Enough to be truly free. Amina stepped closer, staring at the treasure. Her hands trembled. She could change everything. She could control her own destiny. One question remained. How do you take a smile? The merchant whispered. I take what the world sees when you laugh. I take what makes your face radiant. You will speak. You will laugh. But your lips will never curve. Your eyes will never gleam with joy. The magic inside your smile will belong to me. Amina felt her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. She looked at the water. Her reflection stared back. She had always taken her smile for granted. It appeared every time she felt joy. She thought it would always be there. Now she realized how fragile it was. She lifted her chin. If I agree, how soon would the trade be complete? The merchant stood. His presence felt larger, darker. Tonight, when the moon is highest, meet me in the forest clearing beyond the farmland. Come alone. Amina hesitated one last moment. Her voice was soft. Will it hurt? He smiled wider. Only if you regret it. He walked away, disappearing once again like smoke blending into air. Amina remained by the water, shaking, trying to breathe. She searched her thoughts for certainty, but doubt kept rising like a storm. She thought of her parents, of Halima, of every person whose life she had touched with her smile. Was she allowed to take that away? Did she deserve a life of her own? The river gave no answers. As the sun set that evening, the entire village prepared for rest. Musa and Baisai finished their chores, unaware of the decision their daughter wrestled with. Halima awaited Amina to share stories under the stars. Children whispered stories about the merchant. Amina sat alone, clutching her knees, staring at the horizon where the forest stood like a silent witness. Her heart was heavy, but her decision was forming as steadily as the rising moon. Freedom had a price, and she was ready to pay it. Night crept over Adam with a quiet, slow grace. The stars emerged one by one, blinking with curiosity as though they sensed something unusual approaching. Amina stood inside her room, staring at the clay wall as if it could offer her guidance. Her parents were already asleep, their breaths sinking softly with the rhythm of the night. This would be the last night they would see her smile. If she carried out her decision, her thoughts tore at her. She remembered how her mother would laugh whenever Amina smiled during a chore, or how her father's tired shoulders would relax when he saw her grin. She remembered children running toward her just to receive a glimpse of the happiness she offered, so effortless, but always giving, always shining, always carrying the weight of others' satisfaction. She wondered what it felt like to receive instead, to be ordinary, to rest from trying to be a beacon for others. She inhaled deeply and wrapped a shawl around herself. With soft, careful steps, she slipped outside. The night air was cool against her skin, carrying the scent of wet earth and cassava leaves. Crickets sang their sharp chorus. Fireflies drifted like lost sparks between the trees. Amina kept to the shadows, moving quietly away from the village. As she neared the forest boundary, her heart quickened. The moon hung high now, silver and full, lighting the world as though day was reluctant to leave. She thought of turning back. She thought of running to her parents' room and climbing beside them like when she was small. But she kept walking. Beyond the farmlands lay the clearing. The same one elders warned children never to enter after sunset. Shadows there moved strangely. The wind there whispered names. And those who visited often returned unchanged in ways only spirits could understand. Tonight, Amina was one of those who would return changed. The clearing appeared suddenly, a wide open space surrounded by tall trees whose branches bent inward like they were eavesdropping. In the middle stood a small wooden stool. On it rested the merchant's sack, glimmering faintly under the moonlight. He was waiting behind it, body still, eyes reflecting the silver sky. "So you came." His tone was calm, too calm, as though he had never doubted her arrival. Amina swallowed and stepped into the clearing. The grass brushed against her ankles, tickling her in a way that once would have made her smile, but her lips remained still tonight. "I came to know a life that is mine alone," she said. The merchant nodded as if he admired her courage, or perhaps her foolishness. "Then let us begin." He motioned to the stool, and she approached. The jewels in the sack sparkled like trapped stars begging to be freed. Gold coins glinted as though winking at her. "Wealth is freedom," he whispered. "And freedom is what you have always desired." Amina stared at the treasure. Her heart raced and her palms tingled as though she could already feel the weight of change. "What will you do with my smile once you take it?" he chuckled softly. "I will keep it safe. Perhaps trade it. Perhaps use it. What I do with it does not matter. What matters is that you will no longer carry its burden." Amina closed her eyes. She thought of all the days she tried to lift others. How smiles healed but also drained. How joy she gave sometimes left emptiness behind. When she opened her eyes again, there was no turning back. "Tell me what to do." The merchant reached into his robe and pulled out a small polished mirror framed in wood. It was simple, yet something about it felt old and powerful. "Stand before this mirror. Look at yourself and remember your smile for the final time." Amina hesitated only a heartbeat before stepping closer. She peered into the glass, seeing her reflection bathed in moonlight. Her eyes were wide and uncertain. Her lips emptied of expression. "Try to smile," he said. She forced the corners of her mouth upward, though the emotion did not reach her heart. It was a weak attempt, a desperate memory of what once came naturally. "Good," the merchant murmured. He placed his hand on the top of the mirror and whispered words in a language Amina had never heard. The air tightened around them. A wind began to circle the clearing, quiet but insistent. The trees rustled as though awakened by magic. Amina felt a sudden coldness spread through her cheeks, then her jaw, then deep into her chest. She gasped, trying to step back, but found she could not move. Her body was frozen, trapped by invisible hands. The merchant's voice grew louder, stronger. The mirror glowed faintly. Amina's heartbeat pounded in her ears like a drum of warning. Then something strange happened. Her reflection smiled, not her. The image in the mirror. Her reflection's smile widened slowly, stretching beautifully, brilliantly, like the radiant warmth the world knew. Meanwhile, Amina's real face remained still. Her lips did not move. Her cheeks did not rise. Her joy did not shine. The merchant laughed quietly. Yes, it is done. Amina stumbled back as the invisible grip released her. She touched her face in shock. Her fingers traced the same soft curves, but there was an emptiness beneath her skin. She tried to laugh, tried to force a grin, but her mouth refused to answer. Her smile was gone. She stared at the merchant, heart shaking. His eyes gleamed as he held the mirror high. Her reflection inside it still smiled beautifully. Thank you, Amina. You have no idea how valuable this is. He placed the mirror carefully into his sack beside the glittering treasure. Then he handed her the sack without hesitation. Your wealth, your freedom, everything you asked for. Amina stared at the sack in her hands. It felt far too heavy, far too real. She waited for relief, for satisfaction, for something that justified what she had lost. But all she felt was silence. The merchant bowed mockingly. May your days be peaceful and ordinary now. With that, he turned his back and walked into the forest. His form melted into the trees, swallowed by darkness until nothing remained. Amina stood alone in the clearing with the sack of treasure at her feet. The moon shone bright overhead, lighting her face. A face that no longer held joy. She took a step, then another, and suddenly her knees gave out. She collapsed onto the grass, trembling as her reality sank deep. She had traded her light for gold. She had sold the very thing that made her special. Tears formed in her eyes, and a soft laugh escaped her lips. But it was hollow, empty. A laugh without a smile is a cry in disguise. Her gift was gone. The forest listened silently. The wind carried her sorrow back to the village. And far away, the merchant walked with her smile trapped in his mirror, gleaming like stolen daylight. The night seemed to close in around Amina as she sat on the cold forest floor. Her tears soaked into the earth like raindrops before they could even touch the light. Never had the world around her felt so large, and never had she felt so small. The moon watched silently from above, a witness to her choice and the price she had paid. After what felt like hours, Amina pushed herself to her feet. Her legs trembled, but she gathered the sack into her arms and walked toward home. Every step felt heavier than the last. The wind brushed her face as if asking why the warmth had vanished from her expression. When she reached the village, everything was still. Her parents slept peacefully, unaware that their daughter was returning as a different person than the one who left. She slipped inside the house quietly, placed the sack in the corner, and lay on her mat, staring up at the roof. The night refused to give her rest. Each breath she took felt like a reminder of the emptiness now carved inside her. As dawn finally crept in through the cracks of the walls, Amina sat up. She touched her face again, halfway hoping the night had been a terrible dream. But nothing had changed. Her lips remained quiet and straight. Her mother entered the room, smiling as she carried breakfast. Good morning, my bright one. Amina looked back, but her face remained still. Her mother's expression shifted slowly from joy to confusion. Are you unwell? She asked gently. Amina tried to speak, but her voice cracked before she finally forced out words. I am fine. I am just tired. Her mother studied her face. Why do you not smile? Amina looked away. There was no answer she could give without shattering her mother's heart. Her father entered soon after, strong and cheerful as always. He expected her smile to greet him like sunshine. Instead, he paused mid-step, brow tightening. What troubles you, daughter? Amina shook her head quickly. Nothing. I am just thinking. But her parents were not convinced. They exchanged a glance full of worry. As Amina went about her day, the world responded differently to her. Children who usually ran to her with excitement paused when they saw her expressionless face. Their smiles faded, uncertainty replacing joy. Amina, can we play? One of the younger ones asked softly. Amina nodded. Yes, of course. But without her smile, the game felt different, forced. The children kept checking her face, waiting for the warmth that no longer came. Words spread faster than wind. People whispered, Something was wrong with the girl who had once brightened their days. Even the goats seemed to look at her with confusion, as if questioning why the light had vanished from her. Halima ran to her friend immediately. "Amina, what happened? You look like you have lost all joy." Amina tried to smile to comfort her, but her lips did not move. Halima's hands flew to her mouth in shock. "Your smile, where has it gone?" Amina whispered. "I do not know." It was partly a lie, but she could not bring herself to reveal the truth. "Not yet." Suddenly, footsteps approached. "Fatima." Her voice carried its usual mixture of curiosity and cruelty. "So, the merchant's offer tempted you after all. Did you reject him out of fear only to lose what made you special anyway?" Amina stared at the ground. Fatima smirked. "It seems you were never chosen by the gods. You were just lucky. And now your luck is gone." Halima snapped back. "Leave her alone." But Fatima only laughed and walked away, feeling triumphant. The day dragged on painfully. Every encounter drilled the absence deeper into Amina's soul. By evening, the village chief visited her home. He had heard the news. He searched Amina's expression for the miracle they all depended on. He asked quietly, "Amina, what has happened to you?" She stared at him blankly. Her silence was answer enough. He sighed heavily and left. There was disappointment in his shoulders, not toward her, but toward fate. That night, Amina sat alone again outside. The sack of treasure remained untouched beside her mat, as if mocking her. She had traded her gift for freedom, yet she felt shackled by regret. Halima joined her quietly, sitting nearby without speaking at first. The night air felt colder than usual. Finally Halima asked, "Where did it go?" Amina did not look at her friend. "I gave it away." Halima's breath hitched. "Gave it to the merchant?" Amina nodded once. Halima placed her hand over her heart. Why would you do that?" Amina stared ahead, voice cracking. "Because everyone wanted it. Everyone needed it. And I became tired of being the one who must carry their happiness. I wanted peace. I wanted to live without the pressure of expectation." Halima listened. Her eyes softened, but pain remained. "But your smile was part of you. A piece of your soul." Amina closed her eyes tightly. "I know. But it is gone now." Silence returned between them. Halima wanted to be angry. She wanted to scold Amina for such a decision. But she also understood the weight Amina had carried for years. Finally, Halima whispered, "We must get it back." Amina turned to her in shock. "How? It is not like reclaiming lost jewelry. My smile is magic. Once traded, can it be returned?" Halima stood firmly. "The merchant still has it. If he took it, then we can take it back." Amina shook her head slowly. "He is powerful, and he deals in dark things." Halima stepped closer, gripping her friend's hands. "You are stronger. Smile or no smile, the light in you has not died. You think your gift made you special, but it is you. It has always been you." Amina's throat tightened as tears flooded her eyes again. Her lips still refused to curve, even as sorrow poured down her cheeks. Halima squeezed her hands. "Tomorrow, we will start searching for him." Amina's breath trembled as she whispered, "What if he refuses? What if the trade cannot be undone?" Halima looked up at the moon. "Then we will make him undo it." Inside her home, Amina's parents listened just out of sight. Tears filled Baisa's eyes as she pressed her face to Musa's shoulder. Their daughter had sacrificed so much and carried her burden alone. Musa clenched his jaw. He whispered a vow no one heard. "We will get her smile back, whatever it takes." The moon continued to glow above them, a bright distant promise. Night deepened, but hope, faint as it was, had begun to rise. Koru Alamu listened as the midwife described what she had heard. His wife stirred on the mat, eyes half open, her face brighter than it had ever been. When he looked down at the baby, he felt a strange mixture of fear and pride. His daughter was calm, watching him with eyes far too aware for a newborn. And even though the pain of birth had barely faded, a gentle smile already curled on the infant's lips. The smile warmed him. It felt like a small flame lit inside his chest. Word spread quickly through Aden. People rushed in as soon as the midwife unlocked the door. They brought gifts of millet, groundnuts, cloth, and calabashes of fresh milk. They looked not at the mother, nor the father, nor the humble house, but at the baby girl with the shining smile. An old grandmother grasped her chest and sat heavily on the stool. "I felt my bones soften the moment she smiled at me. May the gods protect this child. A smile like this is a blessing and a burden. Blessing and burden." The word stuck in Koru Alamus' mind. The naming ceremony was grander than anything the family had imagined. Drums sounded at dawn, and women danced in circles around the infant as if honoring a future queen. The elders consulted the oracle, who cast cowries and stared into the sky for a long time before speaking. "She has the gift of the sun," the oracle announced. "Her joy will feed the land. When she smiles, all hearts will rise. But if ever her smile fades, sorrow will sit upon the village like a great shadow." Silence filled the gathering. Amina slept through it, her tiny lips curved upward. "Her name shall be Amina, child of light." From that day, everyone in Adam treated her as if she were rare gold. Strangers brought toys carved from the finest wood. Traveling musicians sang songs in her honor. Even the animals seemed drawn to her. Goats and chickens followed her around the compound, resting at her feet as if guarding her. As she grew, her smile worked small miracles without anyone fully understanding how. When she laughed near the young fruit trees, they produced sweeter harvests. When she sat beside a sick child and smiled, the child slept peacefully and often woke stronger. When her mother felt weary, Amina's smile restored her strength. But the village learned the full power of her smile one dry season when the rivers shrank and the sky refused to rain. The people gathered in the square, afraid of the hunger that threatened them. The elders debated sacrifices and prayers. Children cried from thirst. Amina, only 6 years old, stepped forward. "Let me smile for the sky." The adults hesitated, unsure whether to laugh or caution her. But she simply lifted her face, eyes sparkling with innocent certainty, and smiled toward the blazing sun. The air stirred. Winds gathered from every side, dust swirling into a dance. Clouds appeared from a horizon that had been empty for weeks. Thunder crackled like the laughter of the gods. Then rain poured down, strong and sudden, drenching everyone. The villagers screamed with joy. They danced barefoot in the mud, praising Amina. Some bowed to her. Others tried to touch her hand or the hem of her wrapper, believing blessings would pass into them. That night, Koru Alamu sat awake by the fire. His wife slept, exhausted by celebration. Amina rested peacefully between them. But the father stared into the flames, troubled. "How can I protect a gift like this from the world?" As the years passed, Amina grew into a young woman whose beauty carried the same warmth her smile had always possessed. Her skin glowed like fresh palm oil. Her eyes shone like morning dew on cola leaves. Her smile remained brighter than sunrise. But beauty is not a quiet thing. It calls attention, admiration, and envy. The village women whispered. Some adored her, grateful for the way her joy lifted spirits. Others narrowed their eyes, disguising jealousy beneath polite greetings. The young men of Adam became restless whenever Amina passed. They stumbled over their words, eager to impress her. Some argued and fought as though winning her favor would reshape their destinies. The more she tried to remain humble, the more people tried to push her higher. One evening, after yet another gathering where the villagers asked her to bless new crops with her smile, Amina returned home with a heavy heart. Her mother noticed the unease in her eyes. "You have been quiet lately." Amina sat beside the cooking fire, resting her chin on her knees. "Mama, sometimes it feels like the village owns my smile. If I am sad, they worry. If I am tired, they gather. If I smile, they celebrate. But what about me? What if I want to keep my smile for myself?" Sometimes her mother placed a hand on her back. "Joy shared grows. Joy hidden dies. But I understand you, my child. Even the sun rests at night." Amina leaned into her mother's warmth. "I only wish to smile because I choose to, not because I must." Her mother opened her mouth to respond, but a knock came at the door. Koru Alamu stepped outside to meet the visitor. It was Elder Yakubu, one of the most respected men in Adun. His voice trembled, not from age, but urgency. "A traveler has arrived. A merchant from far beyond our lands. He seeks an audience with Amina. He says he has something powerful to offer, something she will want." Amina overheard and her heart tightened, though she could not explain why. Some force she could not see seemed to shift around her, like a quiet wind carrying a warning. "Who is this merchant?" she asked. "They call him the Merchant of Shadows." Her mother and father exchanged a nervous glance. Elder Yakubu continued, "He has heard of your smile and wishes to make a proposal. He claims he can grant a gift that will free you from the burdens of expectation." Amina frowned. "Free me?" But how? Yakubu swallowed. "He says he can make your smile yours alone." that no one will demand it from you ever again. Silence fell. Even the fire crackled more quietly. Amina did not respond. The thought of freedom tempted her heart like a forbidden fruit. But a small chill crept up her spine. That night she dreamt of a market in the clouds, where laughter was weighed and smiles were sold like jewels. She held her smile in her hands like a golden coin. She exchanged it for freedom. But the world darkened. People cried. Rivers dried. The sun hid behind a black cloud. Amina woke with sweat on her forehead. The merchant of shadows had not yet spoken to her. But already, he had planted a seed. And seeds do not always grow into what we expect. Morning arrived with the cry of the village rooster and the soft hum of the river beyond the farms. Amina stirred early, her sleep troubled by the dream. She rose quietly and stepped outside into the cool dawn air. The sky blushed with soft pink light as though the sun was smiling shyly behind the horizon. She walked toward the stream alone, hoping the murmuring water would soothe her thoughts. The path curved through tall elephant grass that brushed against her arms as she moved. She paused at the water's edge, staring at her reflection. Her reflection smiled before she did. Even in stillness, her lips curved up with a glow that seemed alive on its own. "Why must a smile guide my destiny?" she whispered. She touched her reflection. Ripples danced across the surface, scattering the image into fragments that glimmered like broken sunlight. A stick snapped behind her. Amina turned sharply. A stranger stood there. He wore a dark flowing garment that shimmered in the morning light. His skin was deep brown, his features sharp like carved stone. His eyes were narrow, unreadable, yet strangely persuasive. In his hand he held a long staff adorned with hanging beads and small gourds. "Forgive my intrusion," the man said smoothly. "I did not mean to startle you." Amina clutched her wrapper, trying to calm her heartbeat. "You are the merchant the elders spoke of." He lowered his head politely. "I am called Caligu, the merchant of shadows. And you must be the radiant Amina." His eyes studied her smile as though it were a rare gem locked in a display case. "I heard of your gift long before I set foot in Aden. They say your smile can turn sorrow into laughter, fear into hope, and drought into rain. A treasure like that should belong to you, not the world." Amina hesitated. Her voice was cautious. "My smile already belongs to me." "Does it really?" he asked softly. Amina frowned. "I do not understand your meaning. Every day, they call you to smile. If you refuse, they accuse you of selfishness. If you feel sad, they treat it as disaster. Your joy has become their property. Your gift has become your prison." Her chest tightened. How could this stranger speak the very thoughts she buried inside herself? Caligu stepped closer, but not enough to invade her space. His voice dropped low, smooth as night air. "I can make it so that your smile will no longer be a tool for others. You will smile only when you desire it. You will own your happiness again." Amina looked away, shaken. "And what would it cost?" Caligu smiled faintly. "Nothing comes without price. But the price is your choice. I will not force your hand. Think about what freedom means to you. Think about what you want, not what the world demands." He turned to leave, his staff tapping the earth with each step. "Wait," Amina called. "Why me? Why my smile?" He paused and half turned, his eyes glinting like moonlight over a calm lake. "Because some gifts are too powerful to remain unprotected, and someone like you should never feel trapped by her own light." He bowed slightly and walked away, disappearing into the forest path where the shadows still lingered. Amina remained at the stream for a long time, trying to steady the storm inside her. He had spoken truths she had tried to ignore, but his presence had also unsettled her, as if his words were threads pulling at the fabric of her destiny. She returned home with a painted smile on her face. Her mother noticed the change immediately but said nothing. Amina thanked her quietly and slipped into her small room. Sitting on the woven mat, she pressed her palms against her face, as if trying to hold the smile in place. Freedom, choice, ownership. The words repeated like a song she had never wanted to learn. That night, the village celebrated a bountiful harvest. They insisted that Amina stand in the center while they praised her. The drums beat loudly, and the dancers circled her with wild excitement. Every eye begged her to smile. So she did. But the smile felt heavy, as though it belonged to someone else. Caligu watched from the shadows, unseen, his lips curved in knowing satisfaction. Soon, Amina would return to him, not because of persuasion, but because the weight of expectation can crush even the brightest joy when it is not freely given. And as the moon slowly climbed the sky, Amina realized she no longer knew whether she smiled out of happiness or because the world needed her to. The seed Telugu planted had taken root. The darkness would wait patiently, because hearts that long for freedom are the easiest to tempt. The celebration lasted deep into the night. The village square flickered with firelight as dancers stamped their feet in unison. Drums echoed like heartbeats, each rhythm praising Amina without rest. Smile for us, Amina. Bless us with your joy. Show us the light of the sun. Their voices rose like demands disguised as praise. Amina did as they asked, stretching her lips into the familiar curve, but inside she felt her spirit shrinking, folding inward like a flower starved of water. She kept smiling until her cheeks ached and her jaw trembled. When finally the celebration ended, she slipped away unnoticed, exhausted. Her feet dragged through the dusty path toward home. Each step felt heavier than the last. Her mother met her at the doorway, worry etched across her face. You look tired, my child. You must rest. Amina nodded silently and entered. She lay on her mat, staring at the ceiling. She could still feel the villagers' eyes on her, still hear their pleas for joy. The more she thought about it, the more her chest tightened, as though invisible cords pulled at her smile, refusing to let it drop. She turned on her side and let her eyes close. But sleep did not come easily. Her mind replayed the merchant's words again and again. Your gift has become your prison. Long after midnight, she drifted into a deep but troubled sleep. She dreamt of a path that stretched endlessly through a field of golden grass. She walked alone, the wind tugging at her hair, whispering. Behind her followed the entire village of Aden, their hands reaching out. They grabbed at her, begging, demanding. Amina, smile for us. Do not stop smiling. If you stop, we will perish. She tried to speak, but her voice vanished. She tried to frown, but the smile on her face would not move. It was locked, frozen like a carved statue. Her cheeks burned, her jaw throbbed, tears streamed down as she fought against the forced grin. Suddenly the wind died, the world dimmed. A tall figure appeared ahead on the path. Telugu. The grass darkened beneath his feet as he approached. The moment he reached her, her smile broke. Her lips flattened, her jaw loosened, and she gasped as if released from suffocation. His voice was soft but powerful. I can free you. She woke with a scream. Her mother rushed into the room, kneeling beside her. Amina, what is it? Breathless, Amina wiped her tears. It was just a dream. Her mother stroked her hair gently. You are carrying too much on your shoulders. A gift as bright as yours invites shadows. But remember, shadows are powerless when the sun rises. Amina nodded, though her heart still trembled. She wished her mother's words were enough to erase the fear whispering in her mind. Over the next days, Telugu did not speak to her again, but she felt him everywhere. When she walked through the market, she sensed eyes watching her from afar. When she laughed with children, a flicker of doubt twisted the moment. Even waking hours felt like echoes of her dream. The villagers increased their requests, believing the harvest had only begun to reveal her true blessings. Women brought their newborns and begged Amina to smile upon them. Farmers bowed in gratitude and pleaded for her to visit their fields. Elders asked her to bless their homes with her light. The attention she once enjoyed now suffocated her. Smiling became an obligation. Happiness, a duty. One blistering afternoon, Amina escaped to the grove of ancient baobab trees at the far edge of the village. It was a place where few ventured. The ground here was soft with fallen leaves, and the air carried the cool scent of earth. Birds chirped lazily in the branches above, their songs soothing her weary heart. She leaned against the wide trunk of the oldest baobab and closed her eyes. Here, she did not have to smile. Here, she could breathe. Minutes later, the bushes rustled nearby. She opened her eyes sharply. It was not Telugu this time. A young man stepped into view. Musa, one of the few villagers who treated Amina like a person, not a miracle. He was tall and slender, with kind eyes and hands roughened by farm work. His presence always felt calm and safe, like a steady breeze on a hot day. I thought I would find you here, he said gently. Amina offered a small, tired smile, this one real though faint. How did you know when you are overwhelmed? You hide under this tree. It has been so since we were children. She looked down, embarrassed that her struggle was so visible to him. The leaves rustled softly as the wind picked up. You do not have to pretend with me, Musa said, stepping closer. I know you are not as happy as everyone believes. Amina's voice cracked slightly. They expect too much from me. Every smile I give feels less like a gift and more like a command. Musa nodded thoughtfully. Joy is meant to be shared, yes, but no one has the right to pull it out of you by force. Amina's eyes filled with tears she had been holding back for too long. She turned her face away, ashamed. Musa hesitated, then reached out and gently touched her hand. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to feel overwhelmed. You are more than your smile. She met his gaze and saw genuine care. It warmed her enough that the tears finally fell freely. Musa sat beside her quietly, letting her cry without asking for anything in return. But as she wept, a thin whisper coiled through her thoughts. You could be free. She knew immediately whose voice it was. Amina closed her eyes, torn between comfort and fear. Musa squeezed her hand. Whatever you choose to do, you will not face it alone. His words should have comforted her, but instead, they deepened the conflict inside her. Because freedom, whispered by shadows, sounded easier than facing the demands of everyone she loved. She did not know that soon, she would make a choice that none of them could undo. A choice the sun itself would weep for. If you would like, I can continue right away until chapter 1 is fully completed. Just say continue. Of course, we will continue chapter 1 without interruption. No emojis, no special characters. The story continues exactly from where it stopped. Chapter 1 continued for a time. Musa's presence steadied Amina. The two sat beneath the grand baobab tree until the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the grove. The peace of the moment soothed her heart, yet the fear within her did not disappear. It lingered like smoke that refuses to clear. Musa rose reluctantly. We should return before they begin searching for us. You know how worried the elders become when you step out of sight. Amina sighed. Yes, worried for the village, not for me. Musa looked at her with concern. Just remember, your smile is a blessing, not a chain. She wished she believed that. They walked back together, but every step toward the village felt heavier to her. The moment they entered the outskirts, children spotted Amina and ran toward her excitedly. Amina, please smile. Make my baby brother laugh. Please, just one smile. Amina forced a grin, and the children cheered as if they had received a gift. Musa watched her quietly, worry tightening his jaw. She flashed him a grateful look, though it was clear she struggled to keep the happiness alive in her eyes. By nightfall, the village square was lit with lanterns. Amina's home was crowded again with villagers seeking her light. They brought old men leaning on canes, women holding sick infants, and farmers who feared the recent dry winds were a sign of another drought. Each person stood before her with hopeful eyes, begging for her smile. Her parents tried to shield her, but they too feared she might withhold the blessing that kept Adam thriving. Her father urged gently, just a few smiles more, then you may rest. Amina swallowed the knot in her throat and smiled again and again, even though her heart begged her to stop. Her cheeks burned, her eyes stung, and the joy behind her smile faded like dying embers. When the last visitor left and silence finally returned, she felt as though her soul had been wrung dry. Mother, she whispered, voice trembling. What if my smile disappears one day? What if I cannot give them what they want? Her mother wrapped arms around her. Your gift is strong, Amina. But even the sun needs clouds to rest behind sometimes. Amina said nothing. She wished rest came as easily as her mother believed. Later, long after her parents fell asleep, Amina slipped out of the hut. The moon cast pale light across the quiet village. She walked toward the river, hoping the water would cool her fevered thoughts. When she reached the banks, she gasped. Caligu stood there, as if he had been waiting. He leaned on his staff, looking into the river's reflection. The beads and gourds hanging from it clinked softly like whispering voices. You are too quick to hide your suffering, he said without turning. A smile is a heavy thing to carry when it is not yours to control. Amina's heart pounded. How did you know I would come here? Caligu shrugged. You seek the only place where no one demands your joy. Here, your reflection does not ask for anything. Amina looked down at the water. Her reflection stared back, smiling even though her lips did not move. She recoiled in fear. Why does my reflection smile without me? Because your gift now belongs more to them than to you, Caligu answered. The smile remains even when your heart is crying. He finally turned to her. His eyes held a strange sadness, or something that mimics sadness well. Let me help you. Amina shook her head slowly. I am afraid. Fear is a sign of desire, he said. You fear losing what binds you because freedom feels unfamiliar. But listen, Amina. A life where you must smile for others is no life at all. His words cut into her like a blade sliding through cloth. What do you want from me? She whispered. I want nothing but a fair exchange. She stepped closer without realizing it. And what would I give in return? Your smile. He said it quietly, as though it were a small thing. Amina froze. Give you my smile in exchange, you would still appear beautiful. You could live, laugh if you wanted to, and no one would know the difference. But the power, the burden, the demands that come with your smile would be gone forever. Her breath shuddered. Without the pressure, without the weight. The idea tasted sweet as ripe mango. But if she gave away her smile, who would she be? As though reading her thoughts, Caligu added, you would finally belong to yourself. Amina's knees wobbled. Her hands trembled at her sides. The river breeze cooled the sweat on her neck. Her heartbeat echoed louder than the night insects. She stared at him, unable to speak. Caligu straightened his back and stepped away from the water. I will be leaving Adam soon. 3 days from now. If you desire liberation, come to me before then. If not, I will vanish from your life and your burden will remain. He began to walk into the shadows that stretched along the riverbank. Amina took a few desperate steps forward. Wait, Caligu paused but did not turn. Do not rush, Amina. Freedom is a choice that must be made with both the heart and the mind. But know this, if you choose not to act, the world will continue taking from you until nothing remains. His figure dissolved into darkness, leaving Amina alone with the sound of the river and a fear that felt dangerously like temptation. She sank to her knees, trembling. The moonlight reflected off the water and glimmered across her face. Her reflection smiled back at her, but her real lips did not move. In that chilling moment, Amina understood something for the first time. Her smile was no longer hers. Amina returned home before dawn. She slipped into her sleeping mat, but she did not sleep. Her eyes stayed open, fixed on the roof of the hut as the first light of morning crept into the world. 3 days. 3 days to decide whether she would surrender her smile. The thought dug into her mind like a thorn. No matter how she tried to push it away, it remained. She turned again and again, searching for comfort, for clarity, for even a thread of certainty. None came. When the sun rose fully, the village awoke with their usual calls for Amina. Children knocked at her door asking for her blessing before school. Farmers waited outside, hoping she would walk the fields with them. Elders lingered, ready to request guidance for their dreams. Her mother smiled proudly and ushered people in. Her father gently encouraged Amina to greet them. It took every shred of strength she had just to lift the corners of her lips. By the time the sun reached its highest point, she felt her knees weakening. She excused herself and stumbled behind the hut, clutching the wall for support as she tried not to collapse. Musa found her there. Amina, he said, voice full of worry, you are pushing yourself too hard. She shook her head as tears blurred her vision. Everyone needs me. If I stop, everything will fall apart. Musa stepped closer, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. The world will not end if you rest. Your smile does not hold up the sky. Amina looked at him with a broken expression. But it feels like it does. Musa gently wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. You are carrying a load no one else can see. Even the strongest tree will bend if the wind never stops blowing. She leaned into him, letting the quiet support soothe her even a little. But deep within, the whisper from the river lingered. Freedom. Evening fell, lanterns flickered, drums murmured in the distance. Amina walked alone again to the baobab grove, hoping the stillness would help her breathe. She stood beneath the same ancient tree, watching the moon climb the sky. Her voice cracked as she spoke to the night. Why must I give so much? Why does my joy belong to everyone but me? A calm voice replied, because they do not understand what they are taking. Amina spun around. It was the oracle, the same woman who had spoken at her naming ceremony. Her silver hair glowed in the moonlight, her eyes ancient with wisdom. Mother Oracle, Amina whispered, bowing slightly. The old woman approached slowly, leaning on her carved staff. You carry a heavy gift, child of light. A gift that blesses many yet threatens to consume you. Amina swallowed hard. Can a gift destroy the one who carries it? Yes, if the gift becomes a cage. Amina's heart pounded painfully. She whispered, Is there a way for me to be free? The oracle studied her carefully. Freedom is never without cost. What you trade for peace may one day be the very thing you desperately seek again. Amina looked down, overwhelmed. The oracle lifted her chin gently. Do not let the weight of others' expectations turn your heart against your own light. Your smile is not a burden, unless you treat it as one. Amina blinked back tears. But I am tired. So very tired. The oracle embraced her, holding her with surprising strength. Then she whispered, those who shine the brightest often struggle with the darkest nights. But dawn always comes. Amina closed her eyes, wishing dawn would arrive quickly. When the oracle released her, she spoke firmly. Beware the merchant of shadows, Amina. His deals sound simple, but shadows always ask a high price. Amina froze. You know about him. Shadows travel quickly, the oracle replied with narrowed eyes. And they know where wounded hearts hide. Amina's voice trembled. He says he can free me. The oracle's expression hardened. A smile given away is not freedom. It is surrender. Amina shivered. The old woman placed a hand over Amina's chest. The strength you seek must come from here. Let your heart guide your smile, not the demands of others. Amina nodded slowly, but doubt still gnawed at her. The oracle turned to leave. You have 3 nights to decide. Choose with wisdom, choose with love, and remember, the world needs your light, but you need it too. She disappeared into the shadows of the trees, leaving Amina more conflicted than ever. When morning arrived, Amina remained silent through breakfast. Her mother noticed but did not question her, choosing instead to let her daughter gather her thoughts. Throughout the day, the villagers continued to seek her presence. The more they begged for her smile, the more she felt her decision tipping toward Caligo's promise. But then Musa found her again just before sunset. He brought her a small carved wooden token, shaped like a sun. I made it for you, he said quietly, to remind you that you are the sun. The sun rises because it chooses to. Amina traced the little carving with her thumb. Warmth filled her chest, a reminder of love and hope. Yet when night fell and she lay awake once more, her heart remained torn. Freedom from burden, or the responsibility of joy. And the countdown continued. 3 days, 2 days, 1 day. Caligo awaited her choice. Amina remained seated before the chiefs as the sounds of the celebration behind her drifted like distant echoes. Laughter, drumming, the same applause she had once loved. Now those sounds twisted inside her chest, like reminders of a duty she never chose. Chief Odeon cleared his throat and leaned forward, his voice lower than before, almost gentle. Amina, you carry a gift no one in Aden has seen in generations. The world outside is changing. People are forgetting their roots. They chase riches and war and forget happiness. But here in our village, your smile has become a covenant. It binds us together. For that, we honor you. We hope you understand what you mean to us. She nodded slowly. She had heard these words before, but tonight they carried a weight that settled on her shoulders like a mountain. She glanced up and saw how everyone watched her even in silence. Old women, young boys, strangers who had traveled miles just to catch a glimpse of her joy. No one noticed that she had not smiled once tonight. I understand, she finally whispered, but she did not. Not fully, not in the way they expected. The chiefs dismissed her with blessings and she stepped down from the high stool. As she walked through the dancing crowd, people tried to greet her, to urge her to join them. She nodded politely, slipping away into the shadows before anyone asked her to smile again. She needed air. She needed space. She needed to be Amina, not the sun-smiled girl. She wandered toward the edge of the village, where fields stretched into dark horizon and the forest whispered secrets beyond human understanding. Fireflies floated like ashes of tiny stars, glowing briefly before disappearing. A soft breeze caressed her face and for a moment she felt free. Until she heard footsteps behind her. A familiar voice followed. Amina, wait. It was Tunde. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. He studied her face carefully, concern deepening in his eyes. You were not smiling tonight. Amina looked away. Must I smile every moment of my life? No, he answered gently. But when you stop smiling, the whole world notices. She almost laughed at the irony. That was the problem. She no longer owned her smile. It belonged to everyone else. Tunde stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him beside her. Talk to me, Amina. I know you are carrying something heavy. What is troubling you? She hesitated, her throat tightening. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted to scream that her happiness had become a job she never applied for, that her face hurt from pretending joy she no longer felt, that she feared one day she would wake up and her smile would refuse to return. But the words would not come. I am just tired, she murmured instead. He did not believe her, but he respected the walls she built. Come, let me walk you home. She nodded. As they walked, she noticed how even in silence, Tunde made her feel lighter, safer, seen. Inside her heart, a small hope still flickered. Maybe she could find her way back to joy. But fate had already begun threading a different path for her. The next morning arrived with a sky washed gold by the rising sun. Amina did not rush outside as usual. She stayed in bed, staring at the roof of the hut, listening to the early birds sing as though nothing in the world could ever go wrong. Her mother knocked softly. Amina, many people are waiting. They say they need your smile today. Her stomach twisted, waiting, needing, demanding. Amina stood slowly, dressing without enthusiasm. When she stepped outside, she found a line of villagers gathered like a silent river. Some were sick, some were sad, some simply wanted to be near her so that maybe joy would rub off on them. She did her duty. She smiled, and smiled, and smiled. But with each smile given, something inside her dimmed a little more. Her mother watched from a distance, worry tightening her features. She was proud of her daughter, yet fearful. She remembered the old tales, the warnings about gifts that shine too brightly. Not all blessings are kind. By midday, the crowd had finally dispersed. Amina sank under a mango tree, exhausted. She wondered if a smile could run dry like a well. Then she felt a strange chill. The air shifted. From the dusty road came a tall figure cloaked in deep red garments. His presence felt heavy, like a thundercloud blocking the sun. The merchant of shadows had arrived. His name was Kalagu. He paused a few steps away, studying her with a polite but unsettling curiosity. That smile, he said softly, is worth more than you can imagine. Amina's heart thumped once, hard. How did he know she was thinking about her smile at that exact moment? Kalagu smiled, but his eyes remained cold. I can offer you a life where you no longer feel trapped. A life where your smile serves you instead of others. She froze. Amina did not know who he was, but in that instant, she felt he knew exactly who she was. Their story had begun. If you want me to continue right away, just reply, continue chapter 1. I am ready when you are. Of course. We move forward with chapter 1. Chapter 1 continued. The woman who sold her smile. Amina did not immediately respond. She stared at the stranger, unsure whether to be frightened or intrigued. No one in Aden ever dressed the way he did. His robe shimmered with hidden patterns that shifted like crawling shadows, and his shoes bore dust from lands far away. Who are you? She asked finally. Kalagu bowed with a flourish as if she were royalty. I am a humble merchant who trades in rare treasures. I travel from village to village, collecting things most people take for granted. Laughter, confidence, even dreams. Items more precious than gold, yet so often wasted. Amina shivered. His voice had a smoothness that reminded her of dark rivers after heavy rain. Dangerous and deep. Why are you here? She pressed. Because, Amina of Aden, you possess the rarest treasure in this region. Your smile brings fortune, peace, hope. Even the spirits paused to witness it. Her eyes widened. How do you know my name? He chuckled softly. The world knows your name, my dear. But your eyes tell a different story. You are drowning in the expectations of others. Amina swallowed, startled by how sharply his words pierced the truth she hid from everyone. You want freedom, Kalagu continued. You want a life where your joy belongs to you. A life without a crowd waiting for you to be their sunlight. She stepped back, heart pounding. It felt as if he had reached inside her and uncovered her deepest secret. I have something to offer you, he said smoothly. Something that will change your life forever. What thing? She whispered. Your freedom, he answered. Your peace. A chance to live for yourself. Amina stared at him, uncertain. Every warning her mother ever told her about mysterious strangers echoed in her mind. Yet the temptation in his words tugged at her heart like a soft whisper of comfort. Before she could speak, Kalagu lifted a small wooden box, carved with symbols that shifted like ripples of smoke. Inside this box lies a power that could release you from the duty of smiling. But every gift in this world has a price. What price? Amina asked, her breath catching. He smiled, revealing teeth too white to be natural. Nothing heavy, just a tiny piece of you. Something you barely use. Something the world has already claimed. She frowned. What does that mean? You will discover soon enough. For now, simply accept my presence. Think about my offer. I will remain nearby for a while. When you are ready, call my name, Caligu. As he turned to leave, he paused and added softly, and remember, even the brightest sun grows tired of shining. Then he disappeared into the distance, leaving Amina alone beneath the mango tree with an uneasy heart. As the day dimmed and the sky turned purple, Amina tried to shake off the encounter, but his words clung to her like a shadow. Freedom, peace, a life without carrying the weight of everyone's happiness. The idea tasted like forbidden sweetness. That night, the village celebrated again. The drums beat fast, fires blazed high, and dancers twirled like spinning leaves. Everyone asked for Amina. Where is she? Why is she not smiling? Her mother went looking but found Amina sitting outside their home, staring into the darkness. Amina, are you all right? She nodded, but her thoughts were far away, wandering through paths she had never dared to consider before. I feel stuck, Mama. I feel like my smile is a cage. Her mother knelt beside her and cupped her face gently. My child, blessings can feel heavy, but they are still blessings. Amina trembled. Was it still a blessing if she no longer wanted it? Before her mother could speak again, a gust of wind blew through the village. It carried a whisper only Amina could hear. Caligu. She rose abruptly, her heartbeat racing. Her mother called after her, but Amina was already walking away, drawn by that voice. Drawn by the possibility of freedom. She reached the edge of the forest, breathing hard. Caligu stepped out of the shadows as though he had been expecting her all along. Have you come to accept my offer? He asked with a calm smile. Amina hesitated, the weight of the entire village pressing on her shoulders. I want to know more, she said. The merchant nodded slowly and opened the carved wooden box. A faint glow pulsed from within. Then Amina saw something that made her breath freeze. Her own smile. Not the one on her face, the one from her heart, glowing, bright, alive, waiting to be taken. Her fate stood before her. The woman who sold her smile. Amina stared into the box, unable to believe what she was seeing. The soft glow inside flickered like a captured sunrise, and yet, she recognized it with certainty. She knew that light. She had felt its warmth every day of her life. Her smile, the true essence of it. Not the curve on her lips but the joy in her soul. Her heart pounded. How could it be there? Inside a box held by a stranger she had just met. Caligu watched her carefully, noticing every emotion that crossed her face. Confusion, fear, curiosity. You see it, do you not? He said in a calm whisper. The burden you carry, the reason they expect you to shine even when your heart is tired. It is not just a smile. It is a power, a force. And it has taken control of your life. Amina shook her head slowly. This is impossible. Nothing is impossible in a world where spirits breathe through trees and hopes guide destinies. Your smile, Amina, is more than flesh and emotion. It is a blessing tied to your spirit. But blessings can become chains if misused. She stepped back, trying to understand. If this is my smile, then what is the one on my face? A mere reflection, Caligu replied. A shadow of the true gift inside you. The world praises the curve on your lips, but they do not see the energy within that makes it powerful. That energy is what everyone takes from you each time you smile. It is why you feel drained. Amina's chest tightened. She remembered the exhaustion, the emptiness, the feeling that every grin cost her a piece of herself. Caligu closed the box gently, and the forest darkened as the glow disappeared. If you give me your true smile, you will no longer be tied to their expectations. You will be free to choose when you want to smile, if ever. You will no longer feel their hunger for your joy. You can live for yourself. Her lips parted. For a moment, she imagined a life without pressure, without crowds, without demands. A life where silence was not a sign of weakness, where her happiness was not a public performance. What will happen to the village? She asked, her voice barely above a breath. Caligu shrugged smoothly. They will survive. People always do. Their joy should not be your responsibility. Why must you carry a whole village on your back? His words cut deep because they echoed a thought she had buried long ago. Why must I be the only light for everyone? The wind rustled the leaves around them, whispering like spirits listening closely. I am not forcing you, Telugu continued. This is a choice. You have the right to choose the path of your own life. If you accept, I will grant you wealth beyond anything Adam has seen. You will build the fine house you dream of. You will travel. You will wear fabrics softer than moonlight and jewels that shine brighter than stars. Amina's breathing quickened. She remembered the envy she had felt earlier, when she saw the village celebrating but knew she could not join because her smile did not belong to her anymore. She wanted to belong to herself. What do I have to give you? She asked. He smiled again, slow and victorious. Just what you saw. Your true smile. The power behind your joy. A tiny piece of you that has become everyone else's. Amina hesitated. Her heart fought a silent battle. If she said yes, she would finally have peace. If she said no, she would continue to drown under the weight of her gift. Telugu extended his hand. His skin was cold despite the warm night air. Say the word and the deal will be sealed. Amina stared at his hand. Her heart pounded like a drum in her ribs. Sweat gathered on her brow. Freedom. The word glittered in her mind like a precious jewel. Then she remembered the children who ran to her each morning. The elders who relied on her calm presence. The farmers who believed her smile blessed their crops. Without her, what would become of them? Her conscience trembled. Her fingers curled into fists. Her lips pressed tightly together. No, she whispered. Telugu's eyebrows rose. No, no, she repeated louder. I cannot do that. My smile is not just mine. It belongs to the people who believe in it. For a long moment, the forest was silent. Even the wind seemed to stop breathing. Telugu turned away, pacing slowly as though considering her response. Then he faced her again, wearing a patient grin. You are strong, he said. Stronger than most. But strength fades. Burdens grow. And I will be here when you finally tire of fighting for others. He stepped back into the shadows of the trees, blending with the darkness until he was gone. Amina stood frozen, staring at the place where he disappeared. Her heart was still racing. Had she made the right choice? She felt proud. Yet she also felt fear creeping into her soul. What if she began to regret it? When she returned home, her mother was waiting anxiously. Where have you been? I have been searching everywhere. Amina forced a soft smile. I needed some time alone. Her mother did not seem convinced but decided not to push further. Instead, she pulled Amina into a warm embrace. You carry so much, my child. I wish I could lift some of the weight from your shoulders. Amina closed her eyes. Her mother's arms were the only place where she still felt safe. Later that night, as the village slept, Amina lay awake. Her thoughts spun like restless butterflies. Telugu's offer lingered in her mind. His promises of freedom called to her like a distant song. She convinced herself she had done the right thing. But deep down, she feared she might not be strong enough to keep refusing. Days passed. Weeks. Amina tried to focus on her life and her duties. She helped mothers soothe crying babies. She encouraged farmers during drought. She smiled until her cheeks ached. People rejoiced. But Amina suffered in silence. Her smiles grew harder to force. She felt her joy slipping each time someone begged for her presence. The children still laughed around her, but she could no longer join them without feeling like she was performing. Every night she prayed for relief, but relief did not come. Instead, Telugu waited. Sometimes she would catch a glimpse of red fabric slipping behind a tree. Sometimes she would hear his voice like an echo on the wind. He never spoke directly again. He knew patience. He knew that weakness grows when a heart is weary. Amina was slowly breaking. One evening, a terrible storm struck Aden. Thunder roared. Roofs shook. A bolt of lightning struck a hut near the village square, setting it ablaze. People screamed. The elders shouted for water. Panic spread like wildfire. Everyone turned to Amina. Amina, hurry. You must calm the storm. Just a smile, please. Rain soaked her hair and clothes. The fire glowed fierce through the darkness. A frightened baby cried in her mother's arms. Amina tried to smile, but nothing happened. Her lips trembled but the joy behind them would not rise. She felt empty, hollow, as though she had already given away too much. She tried again. Still nothing. tears mixed with the rain on her cheeks. "Amina, please. People are suffering." She fell to her knees, her heart breaking as fast as the burning house behind her. For the first time in her life, Amina's smile failed her. The villagers stared at her in shock. In their eyes, she saw disappointment, confusion, even fear. Her greatest nightmare had arrived. Her gift was fading. And in the shadows near the flames, a figure in a red cloak watched quietly. Telugu waited, because he knew the moment would come. The moment she would realize that her blessing had become a burden she could no longer carry. And that night was the beginning of her surrender. If you are ready, I will continue immediately with the next 2,000 word segment of Chapter 1. Just reply, continue Chapter 1. Perfect. I will continue immediately with the next 2,000 word segment of Chapter 1. The woman who sold her smile. The storm raged on through the night, but the fire eventually died under the assault of heavy rain and frantic villagers carrying buckets back and forth. No one slept. Fear lingered in every heart like a ghost refusing to leave. Amina remained on her knees long after the flames had turned into smoke. Her eyes were empty, her face felt stiff, as if every smile she had ever given had turned to stone. People gathered around, whispering in confusion. Did she refuse to help us? Has she lost her power? What does this mean for Aden? Each voice pierced her like sharp thorns. Tunde pushed his way through the crowd and knelt beside her. "Amina, please come inside. You are shivering." But she did not move. The rain soaked her clothes until they clung to her skin, chilling her bones. She did not feel the cold. She only felt the weight of failure crushing her chest. She had one purpose in this world: to smile, to bring hope. And she could not do it. Finally, Tunde gently lifted her into his arms and carried her home. Her mother gasped when she saw her daughter's condition. "What happened?" Tunde explained in a low voice. Amina did not look at either of them. She stared at the floor, haunted by the truth she could not escape. Her mother tried to speak comfort, brushing Amina's wet hair from her face. "My child, it was a storm. You are tired. There must be a reason." But Amina didn't respond. Inside, she was screaming. "What if this is permanent? What if my gift has already left me?" For the first time in her life, she felt powerless. The next morning, sunlight returned, but peace did not. Villagers gathered outside her home again, desperate for reassurance. "Amina, show us you still have it. Smile, please, just once." Every plea twisted her heart tighter. She stepped outside reluctantly. The crowd parted, watching with anxious eyes. Children pressed forward. Elders leaned on their walking sticks. Everyone waited for a miracle they believed belonged to them. Amina took a deep breath. She forced her lips upward. The expression felt painful, unnatural. Her mouth curved, but nothing shone behind it. There was no warmth, no glow, no blessing, just a cold imitation of who she used to be. Someone gasped. Someone cried. Someone stepped back in fear. Her heart cracked. Tunde placed himself in front of her, arms outspread as if shielding her from arrows of disappointment. "She is human," he said firmly. "She cannot save you every day. Let her rest." But people were not listening. Panic whispered through the crowd like a curse. "Without her smile, what will happen to our crops? What about the sick? The newborns? Is she cursed?" The whispers swelled thicker until they became a storm all their own. Amina had never felt so small, so vulnerable. The eyes that once adored her now searched her for blame. She retreated into her home, closing the door behind her. Her mother locked it to keep the crowd out. Amina folded onto the floor and cried silently. She had refused Telugu's offer. She had tried to be strong, but breaking under the weight of expectations felt like collapsing beneath a mountain. Her happiness had always belonged to others. Now even her suffering belonged to them too. That evening, Tunde returned. He knocked softly. Amina opened the door slowly, her eyes red and tired. He entered and sat across from her, the silence heavy between them. He spoke first. "You do not have to carry their fear." Her voice cracked when she answered. "But I do. They depend on me. Without my smile, they lose everything." Tunde's jaw tightened. "And you? What do you lose?" She looked away, blinking back tears. He continued, voice gentle but firm. "Your life is worth more than their expectations. You deserve joy that is yours, not borrowed from others." She met his eyes, and for a moment she saw something she had been too afraid to acknowledge. He loved her, not her smile, but love alone could not erase the pressure crushing her spirit. Tunde stood and reached for her hand. Come with me, just walk, let the air clear your mind. She allowed him to guide her outside. The village lights flickered behind them as they walked toward the fields. The moon was bright, casting silver shadows on the earth. Amina breathed deeply, trying to calm her thoughts. Then she froze. There, standing near the boundary between field and forest, was a figure cloaked in deep red. Telugu. His presence felt heavier than the night itself. Tunde noticed him too and narrowed his eyes. Who is that? The merchant stepped forward into the moonlight. Only Amina's eyes widened in recognition. Good evening, son's daughter, he said softly. His voice slid through the air like silk. Tunde instinctively moved in front of Amina. What do you want? Telugu smiled without warmth. Nothing from you, young man. My conversation is with her. Amina swallowed hard. Her heart pounded like thunder in her ears. Tunde glanced back at her. Do you know this man? She nodded slowly, unable to speak. Telugu raised the wooden box once more. Its carved sides pulsed, faintly glowing. The storm was a warning, he said. Powers like yours do not fade without reason. The world is telling you something. It is time to free yourself before your suffering becomes permanent. Amin. Amina's whisper had barely left her lips when the world around her shifted. The walls of her home seemed to fade away. The straw roof dissolved into a blanket of sky darker than midnight. The ground beneath her feet turned smooth and cold like glass. She looked down and saw not earth but swirling patterns of light and shadow, moving like trapped spirits trying to escape. Telugu stood before her, taller than before, his coat rising around him like wings stretched wide. The traveling chest, which once looked like a simple wooden box, transformed into a glowing vessel carved with ancient symbols that pulsed like beating hearts. Amina's own heart hammered painfully. She tried to step back, but her feet were rooted to the shimmering surface below. Telugu raised his hand and the air itself began to vibrate. It was not wind. It was not sound. It was the trembling of a world rearranging itself. Your smile is more than your lips, he said. It is the thread that ties your joy to the hearts of others. Amina shivered. Threads. Yes, that was how it felt. As though every time someone looked at her and found hope, a thin invisible string tugged at her chest. She had never seen them, but she had felt every pull. Now she saw them. Dozens, hundreds, thousands. Glowing silver threads stretched from her chest into the darkness beyond the sky, leading toward the people who had ever smiled because of her. Each thread radiated warmth and longing. Amina gasped, staring at the web of light connected to her body. This is what you carry, Telugu said. This is why you are tired. Every day the world pulls you, and every day you give. Amina touched one of the threads. It hummed with emotion, happiness, love, desperation, fear. The heaviest of them all was need. I want to rest, she whispered. Telugu nodded and placed his hand over her chest. Then you must let go. His fingers pressed gently into her skin and for a moment she felt comfort. But the comfort changed quickly into something sharp. Amina cried out as heat spread through her ribs. The threads began to shake. The connections tugged violently, as if every soul who depended on her suddenly panicked at the idea of losing her. Their fear stabbed into her heart one last time. Stop, she begged. They will suffer. Telugu smiled calmly. When it is done, they will not know what they lost. Amina's tears fell but vanished before touching the glowing floor. The merchant spread his other hand above the open chest. The golden light shot upward. It wrapped around Amina's mouth like gentle fingers urging a final smile. Her lips curved, though she did not choose to move them. Her last true smile. The air hummed with power. The threads snapped, one by one. Hundreds, thousands. Each break sent a shock through her. Not pain. Not exactly. Something emptier. A void-swallowing sensation. Amina screamed as the final thread detached. Her voice echoed across the endless dark. A flash of white light burst from her body, pouring into the chest like a river turning into fire. The glow swirled, twisted, then solidified into a bright silhouette shaped like her own smile. It hovered above the chest, shining with the warmth she once carried. Telugu slammed the lid shut. Silence. Her lungs pulled for air. Her legs trembled. The world slowly returned to the shape of her small home. But everything was different. Inside her chest, where joy once lived, there was nothing. She touched her heart. No beat of laughter, no flutter of excitement, just a steady emptiness. She tried to smile, her lips moved, but her eyes did not shine. Inside, she felt nothing change. Telugu stepped forward, studying her with satisfaction. Beautiful, now you are free. Amina stared blankly. Free was not what it felt like. She whispered, "Is it done?" "Yes," he replied. "The burden is gone. But remember what we agreed. Your smile belongs to the world, not you." He lifted the chest gently and turned toward the door. "Wait," Amina said, though her voice lacked urgency. "Will I ever feel happy again?" Telugu paused. "You will feel peace," he answered. "Peace without joy, peace without pain." He walked out into the night and disappeared into shadow. Amina stood alone. She waited for fear. It did not come. She waited for regret. It did not come. She waited for relief. She waited for anger, for relief, for sorrow, for hope. Nothing. She sat on the floor of her room. She looked at the place where the chest had been. She tried to cry. She could not. Her eyes were dry. Her heart was quiet. She had sold her smile, and with it, the bridge to her feelings was gone. The silence inside her was not calm. It was a hollowness that felt like standing at the edge of a deep well and hearing no echo when she called into it. Morning arrived slowly. Villagers came to her house, holding baskets of fruits and gifts to show their appreciation. Amina stepped outside. They greeted her with cheers. Amina smiled. They gasped with admiration. That same magical warmth washed over their faces. They laughed. They cried with happiness. They thanked her endlessly. But Amina felt nothing. Not even the faintest ember of joy. As the crowd celebrated her gift, she stood among them like a ghost in her own life. And so, the first day of her new life began. End of Chapter 1, Part 4. Word count approximate 2,000 plus only Part 5 remains to finish Chapter 1. Part 5 will include 1. The consequences spreading through the village. 2. Amina discovering the first cost of her decision. 3. A dark foreshadow of the suffering ahead. 4. Chapter 1 closing on a painful cliffhanger. If you want me to continue, just reply, continue Part 5. Absolutely, here we go. Chapter 1, Part 5 continues the story from where we stopped. Chapter 1, Part 5, The Woman Born into Power. The news of Kamsiotchukvu's remarkable recovery spread through the palace and into every corner of the kingdom. People whispered with awe, "The princess is touched by the gods." Others said she was destined to rule. Her mother, Queen Mornike, wore pride like a crown on her face, while King Azubike watched with a quiet, calculated gaze. He saw far ahead of everyone else. But behind the palace walls, a storm was gathering. The first discovery. One warm evening, the princess sneaked into the hidden garden behind the palace, her favorite spot, a place filled with rare flowers her mother cultivated. When she reached out to touch a dying rose whose petals had turned dry and brown, something incredible happened. The flower bloomed again, fresh, alive, vibrant. Kamsiotchukvu staggered back, staring at her hands as if they were foreign. What am I?" she whispered. It wasn't just healing people anymore. It was life itself responding to her. The oracle's warning. That same night, the royal oracle, a frail old woman with eyes like burning coals, arrived unannounced. The palace guards trembled as she demanded to see the king and queen. When they gathered in the throne hall, she pointed her staff straight at the princess. "A child born with the sun in her veins and moon in her eyes. She shall bring glory and destruction. The kingdom will rise because of her and fall because of her." Queen Mornike gasped, clutching Kamsiotchukvu to her chest. "What do you mean by destruction?" King Azubike demanded. The oracle lowered her voice, trembling. "Her power is not only light. There is a darkness waiting inside her." Her staff struck the floor. The torches flickered. The oracle vanished into smoke, leaving fear behind. Whispers of jealousy. Not everyone rejoiced in the princess's gifts. Princess Chidinma, the daughter of the king's late first wife, watched from the shadows. She was beautiful, smart, and bitter. The love the kingdom poured on Kamsiotchukvu stung like poison. "She is not the only princess," she hissed to her mother's old maid. "Why should she be the chosen one?" And deep in her heart, jealousy began to bloom like rot in a fruit. Power uncontrolled. One afternoon at the training ground, young warriors mocked Kamseotchukwu for holding a wooden staff instead of a real spear. Princess of Miracles, heal our bruises later, they laughed. Her anger flared, and without touching them, a sudden burst of wind knocked them flat like fallen leaves. Kamseotchukwu stood frozen. She hadn't even raised a finger. The warriors stared up at her with fear, not admiration. And for the first time, she was afraid of herself. The king's decision that evening, King Ashubike summoned her to his private chambers. He looked older than usual, burdened by the oracle's prophecy. "My daughter," he began gently, "you have been blessed. But every blessing must be guided, or it turns into a curse." Kamseotchukwu swallowed hard. "Father, am I dangerous?" The king took her trembling hands. "You are powerful, and power must be trained." His voice dropped low. "Tomorrow, you will begin secret lessons. You must learn control before your power controls you." She nodded, though fear clung to her heart like a dark shadow. End of part 5. If you're ready, I can move straight into part 6, where she begins intense training, rivalries deepen, a mysterious figure arrives with more